Hey guys, and welcome back. So it really looks like Min Hee-jin's case is cooked. Yes, the creator of New Jeans, who's been spewing out all sorts of dramatic statements about how she has been so wronged by HYBE, how she's being attacked by HYBE, how HYBE is retaliating against her for her bringing up and trying to protect, so she says, in the spirit of a mother, the girls of New Jeans. Now, whether you believe that or not, and whether you feel like, oh, you want to keep an open mind or not, I just want to say that keep an open mind at your own risk, because it turns out we have more insights into the evidence that was submitted to the court last Friday. So remember, our main source has been a very prominent YouTuber slash freelance entertainment journalist, Lee Ho, over in Korea. And he was multiple times threatened by the law firm of Min Hee-jin. But he had to do his duty, and he had to give us insight into what went into the court. So the only thing about it, like, if you think that he is wrong, and if you think that he is making it up, then you cannot trust the following information. But if you do trust that his source is essentially HYBE, then we get a preview into what has been submitted to the court. And there's a lot of other people who can dig into this information, and nobody is saying like, oh, he's making this stuff up, because if somebody says, oh, I've seen also this information. But how her trying to protect New Jeans in the spirit of a protective mother, of people within her own parent company stealing her ideas. She was complaining about how New Jeans couldn't go first. The evidence submitted to the court on Friday shows that she didn't care about really going first. It was all about her money. It was all about her having to set up her own independent label instead of going with the agreement before under an existing sub-label to debut New Jeans. No, she had to have it herself. And then she also said like, oh, HYBE has been retaliating against me because I said Illit was copying me. Copying New Jeans concepts, their dances. And it shows from the evidence that she already had the plan of leaving before Illit was even in the picture. And now it's a case of how far can you get away with saying everything is a joke? All of these plans, all of this talk, all of these steps to steal a company and to steal New Jeans and to damage the economic viability and reputation of HYBE and its sub-labels and other artists. How far can you get in court saying like, oh, I was just joking, this is just how we let off steam, therefore it is not criminal? Well, that is a question that's going to work its way through the legal system. But one thing is for sure, she is guilty of the 7 deadly sins. And it's quite ironic because one of the big smoking gun documents that HYBE discovered with digital forensics was this whole file called HYBE's Deadly Sins, 7 Deadly Sins. Well, it seems like, honey, she's the one that should be lining up to be first in the confessional booth. So quickly, what are the 7 deadly sins? And apparently this is according to Roman Catholic theology. The 7 deadly sins are pride, putting oneself before God and thinking you're basically better than God. And apparently that is really the source of all the other sins. Second, greed. This sin leads to other sins. Lust, a strong desire for something such as money, power, sexual acts, even when one already has a lot of it. Envy, resentment or sadness at another person's good fortune, and the desire to have it all for oneself and really, you can't be happy unless you're putting other people down. Gluttony, eating too much, often to the point of endangering one's health or overconsumption. Wrath, expressed rage. Sloth, it's essentially, you're so lazy and you're like a sloth. All right, so let's go one by one. I wanted to organize the evidence that we got, the updates that we got in this case under the framework of 7 deadly sins, because I was thinking about this and I was just like, wow, that is so horrible for her to basically say that HYBE has like 7 deadly sins, and she made this whole document and like shared it around with the other people in Ador. And I was thinking like, wait a minute, who's the actual person guilty of the 7 deadly sins? So first, pride. And it is ironic, and I think it is true, because if that is really the source of it, this is how this whole drama started, with her pride. That she's the only most creative person in the K-pop industry. She's the mother of new jeans. She is basically HYBE's gem. Well, she has had to eat a lot of crow this week, because netizens have been relentless in finding basically references that show that she is not as original and creative as she purports to be. And the latest one was, this whole like Illit dancing thing with the hands. Okay, and I know Danielle did some shade when she went like this with the live performance, but this whole thing, well, honey, apparently that comes from Bollywood. Now, I think these international fans really need to speak up, because, the Mexican fans, they were like, yeah, we knew about new jeans. We were saying about new jeans. We didn't want to make a big deal out of it. And then certainly, I don't think all of the Bollywood fans or people from Bollywood who are also K-pop fans didn't really make a thing about this until, it became so blatant that it was necessary. Well, she has essentially now even gotten more heat from Illit, because Illit, their label, their sub-label, Be-Lift, has decided to sue Min Hee-jin for defamation regarding the plagiarism claims. And why do I think this is extremely smart? And you could tell that it's coming. If your creative director of Illit sends out an Instagram post with her middle finger up in lace during Min Hee-jin's press conference, you know that they're just itching to do something, and now they have their chance. Now, I think this is genius because, number one, it really does show like, wait, why did Min Hee-jin, if she is basing literally her entire claim to what's going on, to explain her actions, to explain how she is so stressed and had to relieve her stress by fantasizing with actual documented plans to steal New Jeans and her company. If it was all stemming from plagiarism, why didn't she do anything legally, take legal action against Illit? Because she knows that she can't win that plagiarism argument. And I think we really have seen this because a lot of her concepts has been plagiarized under her standards of just like lightly saying like that's plagiarism. Okay, well, using her standards, she has definitely plagiarized, and people all around the world, from the UK to Mexico and now India, should be launching plagiarism suits. But I think most people know that like it's really difficult. It probably wouldn't work. So she can't lob an assault against Illit over plagiarism, but because she can't even prove their plagiarism, and Illit probably doesn't even care about proving Min Hee-jin's plagiarism, but what they can say is that because you can't prove it in a court of law, because if Illit is telling Min Hee-jin, you can't prove our plagiarism in a court of law, you are literally defaming us. So in that sense, they can launch a suit like that. I don't know if they'll necessarily win, but why I think it's genius is because you're now creating chaos and stress and monopolizing the time of Min Hee-jin's legal team. You know that even under a perfect situation, people like Min Hee-jin create chaos even with the people who are supposed to be on her side. So they're probably up in their eyeballs, just stressed out, just trying to keep it together with their case right now. And then you add this defamation lawsuit. That's why I think that was a pretty slick move, and she wouldn't have gotten to this point if she wasn't so prideful, if Min Hee-jin did not commit the first cardinal sin of pride. Second, greed. Evidence of fleeing with new jeans. Now, let's go into the documents that were submitted to the court by HYBE, and let's go in order of time. Project 1945. That was essentially Ador's manifesto and plan to get independence from the evil HYBE empire by basically stealing the company and leaving with new jeans. Stealing. Yeah, stealing has turned into independence. Where have we heard that before? So that was written on March 2nd, and that was specifically targeting HYBE's management to make them buckle. So attacking HYBE. Now, that was one document that had a name, a dramatic name, sure. But apparently and that was again March 2nd. March 29th, there was another document that did not have a dramatic title. Maybe she was tired that day. She wasn't coming up with, meme titles. And essentially that showed that the ultimate goal, black and white, was to leave HYBE. What happened in between? So this is a very important point that Lee Jin-ho brought up. On March 25th, that is when Illit debuted. So way before the debut and way before all of the allegations over copying, they already had a solidified document on March 2nd. March 25th is when Illit debuted. March 2nd is when they already had plans to damage HYBE, not in retaliation for copying, because the copying didn't get birthed into existence yet. So that makes it very suspicious on her part and basically destroys her argument of she's doing this whole thing to protect new jeans because of copying, because she already hatched this plan way before Illit had even become an issue in her mind. Not an issue for the most of the fans and the public. They don't care. And then on April 7th, that is when we have the document titled 7 Deadly Sins of HYBE. Initial reports said that it was Sins of HYBE, but then apparently the actual evidence showed like the number 7 and that it was like the 7 deadly sins of HYBE. And apparently the rebuttal from Min Hee-jin's team was that, it was just a document that would be outlining brainstorm ideas for the development of the K-pop industry. But everyone's saying like, well, why doesn't it say exactly that? Like something, more positive, or saying like these are ideas to develop the K-pop industry, not like HYBE's 7 Deadly Sins. That essentially looks like you've made progress on your March 2nd document, Project 1945, of attacking and then devaluing and depositioning HYBE. Yeah, so it was greed, it wasn't defense, because there was nothing to defend when they made this idea in the first place. They were greedy, they wanted to take it all and leave. Sin number 3, lust. Getting the most. Because you can lust after position, title, essentially in her world, I think it's like being first, having the most, and keeping resources away from other people. And so there was an analysis done about like who got the most money from HYBE. Let's just keep it simple about like who got the most money to set up these new sub-labels, and it was New Jeans. She's just kind of saying like, oh, these other sub-labels have so much more money. But when you really look at the debut of the albums, there was so much money that went into New Jeans. 160 or $16 million. Let's just, roughly do the exchange rate. 16 million for the setting up Ador, then 2 million for paying back Source Music to steal the trainees, which I don't think is fair market value, but let's just keep it at that. And then 3.7 million for the loan to Min Hee-jin to buy the 20% share. So it's about 218 22 million, 20 to 22 million. Apparently Le Seraphim's was so laughable they can't even really calculate it. And then Illit was about $4 million, but if you count in some of the training costs because they were part of a broadcasting kind of program, then it maybe gets to about 10 to 12 million. So basically it's the New Jeans girls got like a boost of like a 20 million versus 10 million. So she got the most. She's pursuing the most. She's always pursuing like, we gotta be first. And so I think there's this lust to actually be always having more than others, which leads straight into the fourth sin, envy. And we saw this very concretely with some of these, like, this is why I think that she does have this like 7 deadly sins or 7, mental pathologies, because normal people won't say this with a straight face. Like the whole thing with the Louis Vuitton sponsorship, she got mad that other sub-label unit artists were getting Louis Vuitton scholarships and sponsorships, and she was reporting, just like, attention please, like on the company intercom, you need to check in with me first whether you would go and also get a Louis Vuitton sponsorship. And then HYBE was saying like, excuse me girl, before you even came in here, like basically like 5 minutes ago, BTS had the original Louis Vuitton sponsorship, and that's where the contacts came from, that's where the street cred came from, that is where your Louis Vuitton sponsorship came from. But of course she's like, no, nobody else can have it. Then also like this thing about Illit going on Knowing Brothers, which is a very big variety show on broadcast television. It's really like a big deal, but not really a big deal. Like it has, really good audience, and if you get booked on that show, you go. Like, and she got mad saying that like, oh, the broadcast date of this appearance on that show is it's too close to New Jeans' comeback date. Now, that absolutely makes no sense to me, because if you get booked on that show, you go. Also, maybe HYBE can have a centralized way of optimizing scheduling so it doesn't really conflict that much, but what kind of intervention and conflicts and unnecessary battles would that create? Holding back on one group's appearance on a show to favor another, and it's not as if all these shows are just going to wait for you. If you say no, you might not be able to even get on that show again. And why not have a flooded marketplace with your artists? Who cares if like it's actually even better if for HYBE if on Thursday there's somebody, if Illit is on this great TV show, and then Friday there's the comeback tour of New Jeans. That is just flooding and monopolizing the marketplace with your products. And so for her to expect that and basically say like, no, they should take a backseat to my activities, when Illit literally should be like, if you did have to choose between the two, you should, as a HYBE over like a corporate look at this, go with Illit, because they've only debuted less than 2 months ago. They need it, whereas I think it's been like 2 years for New Jeans. So this very unfair but very much behavior of envy. Also, I think where it stemmed from, you saw like the pre-debut invite to Paris Fashion Week, where there was also like some sponsorships for Illit. Oh my god, I think that's when she probably went into a tailspin, and it coincides with a lot of the timing. That was late February. That's when she's in the middle of these heated contract renegotiations that really aren't going her way. And then on March 2nd, there's Project 1945 floating around their servers. So the reason why I also say that it is very much envy from the documents we got on Friday is that we have evidence that she wrote the letter, she drafted the letter with her VP and the legal team over at her law firm for the parents. The letter that apparently is also serving as some of her evidence and justification of why she's acting out like this, because she's saying she did it on behalf of the parents because the parents came to her first saying like they were concerned about the whole Illit copying. The thing, I've seen this before where like people start to buy into like that this thing that's not even a big deal, but they make it seem like it's a big deal. People start to buy into it and then go along and believe in people like Min Hee-jin because they're so clear and they're so sure about it. But I think it's easier to be so clear and sure when you're lying about things like that. An actual thing that is really upsetting, it's actually what I found is harder to convey very clearly and have people understand because you're not pulling an agenda. You're essentially, thinking the problem out loud as well at the same time. And it really is genuinely tough. Whereas this is a con, but we saw evidence saying that she was talking with her VP about, hey, so did you write the letter in the voice of the mothers? And them discussing how we can't send it. The parents have to send it because it would be a violation of the shareholder contract. So this is a bit of a smoking gun evidence for HYBE because this is a very specific action that could be actionable against Min Hee-jin. And then she's saying like, okay, well, send me the draft. Min Hee-jin was saying like, send me the draft. I have to see what kind of tone to take. So you already see that she's very, very, very manipulative in that this is a game. This is part of the process. This is part of the plan. And it's ridiculous how the lawyers on her side saying that no, that's not true because this was all brought by the parents first, who were outraged by HYBE, and they wanted the parents wanted advice from Ador on how to approach HYBE in order to protect their kids from what? From this? She's lucky she got, the kids are lucky they got this, and then, all the concepts that Min Hee-jin stole from over the past 4 decades and around all 7 continents. Number 5, gluttony. Now, what I would put into this category are the documents that we got related to the shaman, because I think that's just very gluttonous. 58,000 messages over the course of 6 months to your shaman, a shaman that is older than Min Hee-jin, but because Min Hee-jin thinks that her younger sister is inhabiting the body of her shaman, the shaman who's older is calling Min Hee-jin in text messages Onni or Onni, like older sister. Now, what was very interesting is that we have evidence on how they came up with the name of Ador, and apparently the shaman chose it. Now, when somebody is sort of gluttonous with the truth, or they say like narcissists sort of lie about things that you don't even have to lie about, but it's because of their ego. And apparently there were 2 names under contention for the name of the company, Ador and also All Joy. And there apparently are reports saying that Min Hee-jin was saying, I didn't want All Joy, but HYBE was trying to force me to choose All Joy, but HYBE was sort of like, whatever, just give us a name. And she, in these text messages, sent a question to her shaman saying like, which one do you like better, Alljoy or Ador? And the shaman said Ador. And Min Hee-jin was like, why? And the shaman said, it's because I didn't have a good memory with it. Like as if she had some sort of like experience with the name Alljoy in the past or something. It's just very odd. So the shaman chose Ador. Number 6, wrath. Now you can see obviously this woman has anger management issues. She's lashing out against HYBE in the media and she's claiming they're out to get her. It's all about protecting her company and her artists against copycats. Whereas now it's so clear that the one copying the most is her. And she's saying like, oh, I'm protecting them from money grubbers, but she is the biggest money grubber. And we've already gone through a lot of the messages where she is cursing people out. She's calling people like fat pigs. She is calling even some of her members like a fat pig. She's saying that she's going to kill them. She's going to go into a rage if she doesn't get greeted properly. So this definitely, I think, goes under wrath. But what is very just disgusting, I think, that we saw in this new evidence is that we've heard about this before, but you know, how she's saying like, well, everything that we set up until this point, you know, which was essentially incriminating, she says like, oh, we have to say that this is a private conversation. And then even her deputies started using those lines in, you know, when they're talking about the takeover deals, meeting with investors, pricing things out with, you know, leaving, that they would say like, oh, okay, well, we have to categorize this as a private conversation or a joke. Now, that's just very odd to me. Like, I don't know, like, does that really work in the court of law where like, you know, you could say like, well, yeah, we were discussing like doing something like a terrorist plot, but we decided to just say that it's going to be a joke. Like, does that really fly? I mean, when you say in your documents that you are going to lie about lying and then you do the lie, are we supposed to believe your lie? Saying like, oh no, we were just joking. Are we supposed to legally believe that just because you say all these like, you know, terrorist plots that you were planning, like you said that you're gonna lie about it, and then when you say like, oh, we were just joking, that's not real. Are we supposed to believe the last sentence where you say like, oh, all of this is just a joke, it's not real? Even though you're saying like, okay, well, we're gonna do all this stuff, and then if anybody asks, we're gonna tell them that it's just a joke. How do you get away with something like that? And the last sin, number 7, sloth, laziness. And we got the evidence of them in Ador calculating how much it would cost to leave with New Jeans. Now, the reason why I put this under sloth is that, like, originally she said that she didn't want to spend her own money and all of that effort that it takes to start her own label, and that she contradicted herself where she said like, oh, I never wanted to do that. That was never my ambition. But then later on in the same press conference, she said that, oh, I went to HYBE because it would be easier to start a label and not, you know, use my own money. And there's a whole system in place. And so I think this is slothful. This is lazy. She doesn't want to put in the work to start from the bottom, like a literal basement, the way that Hyuk and BTS had to start out and put in the blood, sweat, and tears. She didn't want that. She just wanted and she got it. She got the luxurious limousine start and champagne and caviar start in her new K-pop endeavor over at HYBE, and then she's not even satisfied with that. She wants to leave with a ready-made company that was subsidized and funded by essentially the money that BTS brought in over the years, she's basically freeloading off of that and then cutting and running. So I put that under Sloth, and we saw the evidence where she is discussing with her VP the cost of breaking the contracts with New Jeans. And at first he made a math error. He's saying like, oh, it's about 12 million each, so it'll be about like $60 million. And then Min Hee-jin was like, oh, well, that's not that much. And then the VP was just like, oh, wait, oh, sorry, I miscalculated. It's about $500 million for the whole group, which is like way too much. And then he said that, you know what? This would be way too expensive to cancel the contracts. There would be no benefit in going down this route because it would cost too much. It'd be too difficult. You know, basically they wanted Easy Street. You know, they wanted to steal easy. And then they also said like, oh, we're going to leave behind all of the past albums because it would be attached to Ador. All the brands are tied to Ador. So now we see why under their plan, it wasn't just to take the stock option money, take the contracts away from New Jeans and then leave and start a new company. They wanted to have the ties to Ador because it would just be easier, because all of the brand deals are already signed legally to Ador. So if Ador stayed over at HYBE, then it would be so difficult to, you know, work out breaking a contract there and re-signing it here. The album rights are with Ador, so then it would just be easier to take the whole company. And the artist contracts we also had Kakao Talk evidence of that. Min Hee-jin like double checking, saying like the artist contracts are all with Ador and not HYBE, correct? And then the minion was like, yep, it's with Ador. She's like, he. So she just wanted to get out Easy Street. And I think that's Sloth. That's slothful. That is slothful. So I think those, in a nutshell, are the 7 deadly sins that Min Hee-jin has committed and is now going to have to pay for. And if there's anything that I remember in the Bible, it said double for your trouble, but there's like a 7 compounding factor. Like if you do something really treacherous and, you know, have bad karma or just bad sins against another person, you're gonna have to pay it back 7-fold, honey. So I don't know who's doing the math and who's doing, you know, you wanted a 13x multiple to turn into 30x. Well, I think God has a different multiple set up for you, girl. So we will have to see how that all pans out. But she's going into God's IPO territory now, okay? All right, guys, what do you think? Put your comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.